to get some time to hang out with you.
Yeah.
A namaste.
Namaste.
So first, before we like officially start, how are you doing today? How are you?
I'm doing okay. I woke up hella early to get up here. So last week I ended up falling asleep like right when I got here and sleeping till 12, not getting much done. But now I managed to stay awake and I did get some things done already this morning. So I'm feeling all right.
Nice.
Productivity wise, can't complain. Doggo helps. The doggo helps being here. He really does.
I'm so glad.
He just came and sat next to me. Oh my god.
He knows you need company.
I'm giving him pets. He is the best baby.
I am also surrounded by animals right now. I've got Ava chilling next to me, and then a squirrel is fucking with my foot. It's like,
Aww.
you know?
Yeah, they help.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. It's so nice to see you. I almost like I'm getting I'm having trouble focusing on like what I want to do. I'm just like, oh, it's nice to hang out with my sister.
It's nice to see you too, my friend. So, what is going on? What's the theme?
Yes. So this is welcome to our little online testimonial confessional here about the soul check sessions. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar, soul check is my 30-minute, like quick and dirty coaching call option. And it's really good for if you have a specific situation in mind, right? If you have something that is just freaking you out right now, whether it's work related, relationship related, or whatever the F is going on in your life. But that's the main difference between the soul check and like one of my regular, more long-term coaching packages is those are sort of more general. We have time to cover a whole bunch of stuff. In 30 minutes, we're really focusing on like one thing. And the whole inspiration for the soul check sessions was that I very frequently get phone calls from my sister, Erin, and my other sister, Michaela, where just like out of nowhere, the phone rings and all of a sudden we're in the middle of a crisis. And I want to say sometimes we're on the phone for longer, but a lot of times it's like 20, 30 minutes, and we come out the other side of that call with you feeling like you've got an action plan, like you've got a little more clarity on what it is that you want to move forward at. And you know what like the next steps are so you can calm down or yeah, and sometimes we even will do some nervous system management, like some breathing, some tapping, so that when you get off the phone call, the crisis, it's not quite as big a crisis anymore. It's like a medium crisis, a manageable crisis. Originally, I was going to call these big sister sessions because that's how I got the inspiration for my sisters. But I wanted to make it a little bit more broadly applicable and to match my branding. And I still wanted to get a little testimonial from my actual little sister about what it's like to be on some of these calls with me, and what results you get, right? Because I know a lot of people are probably thinking, what results could I possibly get in like 30 minutes from talking to a life coach? It seems like a really small chunk of time. Yeah, but you can get really big results.
Definitely. One of the things I think you really excel at is being able to listen to whatever is going on and then asking really pointed questions, specific questions that get me out of my head and sort of like cause me to see the bigger picture. Think questions that are hard to ask yourself when you're in crisis mode, but are really kind of obvious things that, like, of course I should be thinking about this as I'm approaching whatever issue is going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for example, I don't know if this is a specific example or if it's just like a pattern, but I feel like a lot of the calls I get from you specifically start out with like, I have too much on my plate. I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's like these very big things that come up. I tend to get easily overwhelmed by minor infractions and take them personally. And when I take them personally, it's like I go into full fight or flight, and I'm like, I have to run away from this. Like, I need to leave, and I need to remove myself from the situation. But when I call you, I get those questions, like, that look at the bigger picture, and I'm able to, remove my personal self from the situation, view it objectively, and, consider that maybe it isn't personal, as many things that I take personally often aren't, and just kind of make a little quick game plan for coping through the rest of it, at least the day, if not the next couple of weeks or so.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I feel like I remember a couple of times where it's like, I don't know if we've talked about it this way, but separating like the position that you're in from the person that you are, especially when you're feeling things with your boss or your supervisor, like they're probably going to have that reaction to anyone in that position today. Like it's not a you personally thing. It's like like I feel like a lot of the questions I ask are, well, how do you think your boss is feeling right now? Or like, do you think they're under a lot of stress? Or do you think they are even thinking about you?
Yeah, again, I often will immediately jump to the conclusion that that person is singling me out, that they have malicious intent toward me and my person, and that is, something I revert back to a lot, because it's like the lion in front of you, and getting to realize it's not a lion. Usually a quick phone call with you can help me kind of like address that there is in fact no lion, and that I do not have to be in full fight or flight mode. I can actually just, relax and take some time to process it.
Yeah. Have we ever done, I know that you practice tapping sometimes, but have we ever done EFT tapping like when you called me?
I don't think we have, but I typically have hopped off phone conversations with you and been like, okay, I'm going to take a couple minutes and do a tapping session really quick. Mm-hmm. I use the tapping solution app on my phone, and that usually gets me to an okay place.
And then it's so much easier to address it as like, okay, a situation that you can manage, you can take action, you can choose which way you're going. It's not life or death, even though it feels that way at first. But I know on some calls I've had to be like, all right, like I know you called for a coaching session, but like we're going to do a tapping session first, because you're too wound up to even answer questions or to even be able to process.
Tapping is really important because oftentimes your reaction to day-to-day events is subconsciously rooted in past traumas that you have an actual physical and emotional response to. And things in your daily life can be a trigger for that. And EFT definitely a great healing method for trauma and relaxing the body when you get into that headspace, which can be hard to get out of.
Definitely, especially when we're dealing with work stuff, because it's tied to like your money and your ability to support yourself and your family. And a lot of that can be really triggering. So when you're having problems at work, it can feel like, if I lose this job, I'm homeless, I'm out, like, I'm dying. And
Yeah.
your body will have these responses that are way outsized versus the situation, which is like, I was 5 minutes late and my boss rolled their eyes.
And recently I've had that full body like panic attack reaction to the actual process of working with a career counselor and working on my resume and on my just getting my resume, not even like necessarily looking for a new job or anything, just like getting it to a place where it accurately represents my accomplishments. And I realized that that process for me brought up a lot of really negative emotions, a lot of like psychological stress. And yeah, I got into kind of one of those places where because it was about career, because it was about accomplishments in like a professional sense, I definitely, just that one project kind of sent me spiraling into I'm not good enough. I've never been good enough. Like all of my accomplishments to date have been so small, and I won't be able to support my family going forward because like I'm a fraud, and like there's no way I could possibly move to the next step with as little experience as I have, and like I don't know what I want to be doing. It just is a whole spiral thing. So I didn't actually call you that time because it felt so big, because that I didn't know what to do. I was kind of like frozen, and that happens sometimes too. Usually when I call you, it's not all that bad. Like I'm not frozen with it, but varying levels of that feeling. And this one was particularly bad, but I would say that my past conversations with you allowed me to manage it really well. So I referenced back to our previous conversations and was able to think, okay, well, like, what can I do right now to make this lesser? And the answer was to just reach out to my career counselor and say, hey, be very honest. Like, this is bringing up a lot of issues that I, thought working with you would just put a Band-Aid on. And it turns out I need to process a little more of what came up today when I was trying to work on this project. She responded right away, like, of course, no problem. Like, I understand this can be like a really difficult process. And yeah, just being honest and being able to tell someone what I need, set a boundary, not even a boundary, just like tell them where I'm at. And of course, their response was so much better than I anticipated it being. Like, when I was running it through my head, I should reach out to her, I was thinking, well, she will think I'm exactly what I am, which is I think I am, which is a fraud, like inexperienced, unprofessional, and that, again, not true. So yeah, after the tumult of the feelings of the panic attack, I was able to reference our past conversations and ask myself those questions and take a step toward resolving the issue. Now, is it completely resolved 2 weeks later? I don't know. I'm still on this pause that I requested. And, one of the things I felt was that she's a career counselor. She's not a therapist or a psychiatrist. Like,
right.
shouldn't have to diagnose what the real underlying issues here, which I think is probably something that's gone unaddressed for a long time.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly what should happen when you're talking to like a career coach or a life coach and something big comes up that like puts up this big red flag and you're like, this could be some like unaddressed trauma. This could be something that would be better addressed by maybe a therapist or a psychiatrist or something like that. And
Mhm.
so I'm so happy that you were able to like pause in the middle of that freeze and figure out like, okay, what's the next easy step that I can take to just get out of this panic moment, right? Sometimes it's just getting out of the panic moment and then letting the next step show itself in time. But
Mhm.
it never is going to be helpful to like stay in that spiraling down and down and down. Like if you can halt the spiral and just
Yeah.
step outside of it for a second,
Right.
incredibly powerful. And I feel like that's a lot of our conversations is like they're gonna hate me or like I'm just terrible, I'm not good enough. And it's like, okay, like stop for just a second and like what makes you think that's actually true? Or do you actually think that's true? Like do you actually see that you're going to like call up your coach and be like, listen, I'm having a really strong emotional reaction? And they're going to be like, oh, well, you're obviously a failure at life.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to actually think those things regularly, but I'm getting, I think, better at managing that just to, further tout what can happen in a 30-minute session when you're feeling that way. Maybe you're alone, and like in this in this case of this scenario, I reached out to Shane because I knew he would be available. Yeah, sometimes you just need to like talk to someone who can get you out of your head, especially if you're alone. So I would highly recommend a 30-minute soul check because, from my past years of therapy and from working with you over the phone, like I am able to realize some patterns and ask myself questions, but not everyone is as practiced at that. So it can be really helpful to have someone in your ear just saying like, it's okay. Like there is no lion. And what do you think, here are a list of questions to be thinking about as you try to navigate your response.
Yeah. And I think the one question that I almost always ask you, I think is what would be like the best possible outcome of this situation that you can imagine? Because we tend to imagine like all the worst case scenarios. Right? I'm gonna call and tell them this and they're gonna fire me, or I'm gonna call and tell them this and they're gonna put me on some sort of blacklist that I don't even know about, and then everyone's gonna hate me.
Oh yeah.
And having you stop and just imagine, well, what's the best possible outcome here? Like if you call them and ask for what you need, like imagine the best case scenario. Like imagine them saying, yeah, that's totally fine. In fact, why don't you have an extra couple days paid vacation? Why don't you take a break? Why don't you take exactly what you need? Because our brains don't go there automatically.
No,
Right?
they do not.
But it can be really powerful to just like let yourself explore that option. Well, excellent job for reaching out when you needed help in a moment of crisis. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for like that is a huge step to just not isolate ourselves, not shut ourselves off when we're having some sort of crisis in our lives, and reaching out and just asking for help or asking for some of someone's time, whether it is a friend or whether it's your coach or your therapist or whoever. And
Mhm.
if you are watching this and you don't have a whoever because you don't currently have a big sister at your disposal, or you don't have a Shane who you can call and vent to, you can call and vent to me. That's what the soul check session is for, right? So that instead of just sitting in your spiral, you can pause it and invite a little bit more of a positive voice into the conversation, or even just a critical voice, someone to talk back to the ego and the fear and the momentary panic, and see if we can figure it out in a different direction.
How would one go about scheduling a soul check session with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way is, well, depending on where you're at, the fastest way is just to go to my website, megangilmanwellness.com, and click on Soul Check, and you can schedule right in there. It's a one-time, like no contract deal, because you never know when a soul check is going to be helpful. Sometimes that's the first time I'm meeting a new client. Sometimes it's someone I've worked with for a year or 2 years, and all of a sudden they're having like a momentary need. So there's no long-term commitments for a soul check. You can just go on and click the button and pick a time that works for you and get right on my calendar. There's a couple of quick questions so that like I know your name and like vaguely what we're talking about when you hop on. It's really a unique kind of offering in the life coaching field. I think most life coaching sessions, most counseling sessions are going to be like a longer term commitment.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on with me. And it's always amazing to see your beautiful face. I love you so much.
I love you. You look so cute. Look at how you're glowing.
I know, it's almost as if I have some sort of light, like I'm ringed in light.
This youthful glow, my goodness. And I also think this color works well on you.
Thank you. This one?
Yeah. So did you want to soul check me, or?
Ooh, do you want a soul check?
Maybe like a rapid soul check.
Yes, let's do one.